Alright, and it is officially day 2 of This May or May Not Be Satire's 2016 31 Days of Horror Countdown. And we're still in the heyday of silent cinema. We're now at the year 1920. And before we get into the movie we're reviewing today, you really got to talk about sort of the critical reaction to a lot of these really pioneering horror films. Now, for most people, the root of traditional cinematic horror film is in German Expressionism. And I guess Der Golem, the movie we're reviewing today, certainly kind of fits into that mold. But for me personally, when you go back and you watch a lot of the pioneering German Expressionism works, I mean, some of them I think are utterly outstanding. For example, I absolutely loved Metropolis. That's a great German expressionistic work. It's not a good one. I'm trying to think of something in my head. I don't think of the fairly overrated ones. But yeah, anyway, but like I said, when most people think about German expressionist horror, they usually kind of go to stuff like Nosferatu, they go to stuff like The Count and Dr. Caligari. And frankly, I think these movies, I mean, they're pretty decent. They range from okay to really good. But frankly, I just don't think they really hold up as well as some of the other films from the silent film era, like Haxan, which I think is a totally fantastic film, which really is still pretty spooky today. And, movies like Dr. Caligari, movies like Nosferatu, I think we get to a point where we appreciate them for their aesthetic value and their influence on the genre. But if you go and watch them, they don't really hold up that well. I mean, they're kind of really slowly paced. The acting usually isn't that good, and you just kind of go through it and you're enjoying the lighting and all that stuff, but you don't actually enjoy the film for what it is. Now, The Golem, this one's different. This is actually a legitimately great movie. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with the Golem backstory, it's actually a redo, because it's the redo of a redo. There's actually a film made in 1915 called The Golem. And there was another one in 1970, which is actually kind of a weird, like, horror comedy called The Golem and the Dancing Girl, but that's neither here nor there. So anyway, 1920 comes along, and this guy named Paul Wegener decides to make another film about the Golem. And the Golem, for you not in the know, it's this sort of historical Jewish folktale about a statue that comes alive, and it does a rabbi's beating, and, spooky things happen. Basically, it's kind of foreshadowing Frankenstein a little, kind of the same dynamic about a guy creating a monster and the monster, completely running amok and being out of his control, and then the guy dealing with it. Now, here's the thing about the Golem. And the official title is The Golem, How He Came into the World, in case you're wondering. And this is the part where you're going to read it and you're going to be like, oh, whoa. It's a film about a rabbi, and he has a vision. And he's hanging out in the ghettos of some unnamed city. And it's actually set during the heyday of the Holy Roman Empire, but clearly, it being a product of its time, it's supposed to kind of reflect what's going on in Europe in the post-World War II era. So anyway, he starts having visions that something really terrible is going to happen to the Jews. Like something incredibly horrific and bad and completely just beyond the realm of comprehension. So he decides to go out and basically use some alchemy, use some magic, use some mysticism, goes to Kabbalah, whatever. And he uses that to summon the Golem, who's supposed to protect the Jews from harm. Now here's the thing about this movie. Take in all these plot points, all the elements about persecution and all the anti-Semitism, all the really horrific foreshadowing. Folks, this movie came out in 1920. It came out literally 20 years before World War II started. So yeah, right off the bat, there's like this incredibly just eerie relevance and subtext of the entire film. And thankfully, unlike something like Nosferatu, where it kind of trods, and Kevin Dr. Caligari, where there's really not a whole lot of, quality acting or pathos to it, this one's actually quite well. So anyway, you have the rabbi, and he summons the Golem, and the idea is the Golem's supposed to go out there and protect the Jews in the ghetto from being killed by, whatever nefarious force approaches. But what do you know? We're doing the whole Frankenstein motif. And of course, the golem gets out of control. He starts killing innocent people, and then it's up to the rabbi himself to stop the golem. And interestingly enough, the golem's actually played by the director, Paul Wagner. And really, I really can't say too much else about the movie because, I mean, it's very, very straightforward. And to give away anything more than just the basic idea of the film, you kind of ruin the entire effect. But yeah, overall, this is just a very, very well done movie. Great acting, great pacing, lots of great subtext to it. Special effects are actually pretty well done. I mean, the makeup effects on the Golem are fairly impressive. And overall, it's just a very, very enjoyable, but just such an incredible sense of dread permeating every moment of the film. And really, this is one of the first truly great, like, supernatural tinged horror films. I mean, we had a lot of great horror films in the era, but they were kind of, based upon, like, morality plays, like The Avenging Conscience, where it's about murder mysteries. And this one clearly is going way out in the realm of, beyond the fantastical. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's a downright fantastic film, one of the best movies from the Weimar Republic. I do think there are some films from this time frame that are just a little bit better, so I can't give it the full 4 Ghost Reese's Cups ratings, but I can give it very, very high marks. I'm going to give it 3.5 Ghost Reese's Cups out of 4. So yeah, it's pretty much a fundamental required history of horror film viewing. And if for some reason you never got around to it, you know what? It's a legitimately great film, a great silent film, a pioneering, incredibly important horror work from the 1920s. And you're going to watch it and you're going to feel a lot of unease, and that's what the best horror films do. Not only do they reflect the absurdity of fantastical terror, they also reflect the inner terror of the world inside us and around us. And very few films, past or present, do as well a job conveying that social apprehension as The Golem from 1920. Folks, you need to see this one.